Rates of change and tangent
It's
lines.
that same thing from, I noticed it was like the same type of formula from physics.
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't understand like how like tangent things needed secant.
Secant is something different. You'll see. It's not hard, I promise. It's actually pretty easy. I actually like this section a lot.
Yay, that means I'll probably like it.
Find the average rate of change of the function over each interval. So 2 gives us the function square root of 4x plus 1. And the first one is the interval from 0 to 2. The second one is 10 to 12. So essentially, it's going to be the function evaluated at 2 minus the function evaluated at 0 divided by 2 minus 0. So square root of 4 times 2 plus 1 minus the square root of 4 times 0 plus 1 all over 2 minus 0. So this is that very first formula. You have f of 0.2 minus f of 0.1 divided by 0.2 minus 0.1. So it's the y value over the x values is what that is. So it's the same thing as slope formula, just looks a little different. So I've got 8 plus 1, so that's the square root of 9, which is 3, minus 4 times 0 is 0, plus 1, square root of 1 is 1, divided by 2 minus 0 is 2, and so then that's 2 over 2, which is 1. So this one is 1.
Yeah.
Not too bad, right?
Definitely easier than I thought.
So then I do the same thing with 12 and 10. So square root of 4 times 12 plus 1 minus the square root of 4 times 10 plus 1 all over 12 minus 10. So what have I got? Square root of 49, so that's 7 minus, what is this, 41, square root of 41 all over 2. And it can just be left this way, right? Like there's nothing else going on. I can't reduce 41 down any farther.
I'm down.
So now I know this is relatively easy, but we are going to do one that is with a trig function so we just can review a little bit about that stuff. So number 6, f of x equals 2 plus the cosine of x. Point A is 0 to pi. Point B is negative pi to pi. So big thing here is I've got to remember this is 2 separate pieces now, whereas before I just had a radical. So I need to make sure when I do like minus and then the function again that I put it in parentheses. So over here I've got 2 plus the cosine of pi minus, I would do parentheses, 2 plus the cosine of 0. Now if you wanted to go ahead and just say minus 2 minus the cosine of 0, that would also be okay, but I like to do it this way just so I can visualize it. Over pi minus 0. What is the cosine of pi?
-1.
-1. And then minus 2. What's the cosine of 0?
1.
1. But it's minus. So this minus sign's being distributed in here. So it's going to be -1. And then all over pi. So this ends up being -2 over pi. And again, we just would leave it like that.
That's nice.
And then for this other one, 2 plus the cosine of negative pi minus parentheses 2 plus the cosine of pi.
Does it matter which way we do it?
What do you mean?
Like, for the other ones, we were doing the second term first. Like,
I think if you do the second,
Oh.
top down, to do the second first, not fine.
No, she wants a cookie point.
do I get a cookie point? Hooray! My first one of the year.
Well, I was about to say, like, if you do your first
Kinda
term
like with
first, then
slope.
you have to do the first on the bottom.
Yeah.
Like with slope.
Like, you can change them, you just have to.
I was about to do pi minus a negative, so it would have been backwards anyway. So
Don't diminish my cookie point, Josh.
Oh, I'm not going to originally, I'm just
I was
Making
like
sure
trying
you-
to figure out what she was talking about. I was like, yeah, it has to be the second one, then the first one. What?
Half the time, I don't know how to describe it. I just keep point to it. Like,
She's like, this is wrong.
this is wrong. I don't know how to say it, but you know.
Okay, do I have it written right now? I think so.
Yes.
Okay, so then I've got 2 plus, we already said cosine of pi was -1, so I guess it's going to end up being -1.
I wrote this.
Then -2, cosine of negative pi is what? -1, because remember we would just go backwards, so it would be the same place as pi. So it would be -1. -1 times negative times -1 is +1, so that's +1 over 2 pi. 2's cancel, 1's cancel, so I end up with 0 over 2 pi, which is just 0.
Do we want to write the 0 over 2 pi?
No.
Okay.
I just did it for the visual, so you don't think I just randomly was like 0.
0.
Because, I mean, I would just on 0.
I would too. I just did it because
I would think
Making
that
sure
like,
we
when I'm
see it.
doing it, I would, but then if I'm looking back at my notes, sometimes I'm like, wait, how did you get there?
yeah.
How'd you get to 0?
Well, and I figure in the notes I would rather be a little bit more thorough. Plus, if I ever use these videos in the future,
That's a
Yeah.
terrifying thought.
like that way, like if I was out or something and I was like, using a video,
Yeah.
you know what it's coming from. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's why. Okay. Now we're going to get into stuff that's a little more fun.
I don't
Is it
like the
hard
tone
fun?
of your voice.
I know.
It's very disconcerting.
She's checking the time too. Is it gonna take a while?
No, I mean, it's a long problem.
But she has to print out quizzes.
Oh yeah.
So you better be smart people and get it done fast so that you can torture those poor 8th graders.
All right, so these ones say, at the indicated point,
How many lines might I need for this? Gotcha. Thank you.
find the slope of the curve, which we will do using limits, an equation of the tangent line, and an equation of the normal, which will be the next chapter in physics. So, you'll learn to do it with calculus, and then in physics we'll do it a little different. So, number 10, y equals x squared minus 4x at x equals 1.
That's cool.
So we have, I'm trying to find the formula. The slope of a curve formula down here that you need to know. So it's at the point A and f of A. We're taking the value for x that's there and we're plugging it in. So A is going to be, in this case, 1. And we're plugging it in. So we have the limit. And I'm going to do like the gist of it, and like when I get down toward the end, I'll actually write part A so that we see where it's going. But all this is part of part A. The limit as h approaches 0 of 1 plus h is what's going in for x initially. So 1 plus h squared minus 4 times 1 plus h. So that's just the first part. That's the f of a plus h part. Minus, I usually bracket this off, Now I'm just plugging in 1, so you don't necessarily have to with this one, but I can. It's just f of a. So I just plug in 1, so that's going to be 1 squared, which is 1 minus 4 times 1. So again, I'm just going to do that for the visual. I'm going to go ahead and do the square just so if you look back, you can see it. If you don't want to write it, that's totally fine. I don't care. Divided by h. So I'm going to factor or FOIL, whatever you want to say, distribute and combine like terms. So this is 1 plus 2h plus h squared. It's perfect square trinomial. Minus 4 minus 4h. Then over here, 1 minus 4 is negative 3 times the negative, so plus 3 all over h. Now, these tend to work out nicely to where things will cancel out. That's what we're hoping for. So 1 and 3 will cancel with the negative 4. And then I've got, from there, I'm going to have 2h, nope, I lied, h squared minus 2h over h. And in theory, I should be writing the limit. I guess I should do it this way. I should be writing limit all the way down because I ultimately am taking the limit. I don't want to forget about it, but usually if it's just a couple lines, I just kind of skip it and I'll write it again at the end.
On like the AP exam, we should keep writing limit.
Yes, if it's a short answer question, keep writing limit. Factor out the h, so I have h minus 2 over h. And again, some of these steps, if I'm just doing it for myself, I probably would not write. I probably would have gone straight to h minus 2 there and just have canceled out the h's, but I factored it out again in case in the future. I think y'all know to factor it out before you just start canceling, but some people don't. So
No.
at this point, I would rewrite limit. So I would say this is part A now. The limit as h approaches 0 of h minus 2. So if I plug in 0, then it is negative 2. So this is my slope of the tangent.
I don't think I've ever factored something out to cancel. Well, maybe I have. But
I just crossed
like
out.
if there's like a square root or something, but like
Yeah.
if it's like a letter or something, and I see that everything has it.
Yeah, I think like y'all don't really need to, but I have some classes that do, so more so, like I said, if I use this in the future.
Yeah, it's just like.
All right, so the tangent occurs at the point 1 and f of 1. Okay, so what I do is I need to find the y value. Because I have a slope, I need a point, is I'm going to find y. So f of 1 would be 1 squared minus 4 times 1, which is going to be negative 3. So the point that I'm using is 1, negative 3, and my slope is negative 2. Now, in theory, we've already done this part, and I didn't really need to do this again, because up here, this last part is f of a, which is f of this point. I didn't really need to go through and do this again, but a lot of times I do just to verify and not get all mixed up. Then point slope form. Y minus negative, so plus 3 equals negative 2 times x minus 1. Sometimes your book will leave it here. Sometimes it will keep going. So you can either go here or you can do y equals negative 2x plus 2 minus 3. So y equals negative 2x minus 1. So this is the equation of the tangent line. Part C is the normal line. So to find the normal A normal is always perpendicular to the tangent. Okay, so you'll kind of get a little head start on physics class. So, what if the slope of the tangent line is -3? What would the slope of the normal line be?
1/3.
Yep. So the slope would be 1/3. The point is still exactly the same.
Are you sure it would be 1/3 instead of 1/2?
Yeah, because the slope was -2.
You don't get a cookie point for that one.
Darn it. Try, Josh. It was a good effort.
Virginia gave false information.
Well,
This is all your fault.
in my
Virginia.
defense,
You have no
I
defense.
thought it was -2, but then you said -3, so I was like, okay.
Like, well, okay, I think she thought that you were just putting that out as an example, not related to the problem.
What?
I thought she was just throwing that out there like as an example, not talking about the problem whatsoever.
I don't know.
But then when
what.
she actually wrote it, it's like, huh?
Okay, the slope is 1/2, and the point is still 1 -3. So it would be y plus 3 equals 1/2 times x minus 1. Again, you could leave it here or keep going. Y equals 1/2 x minus 1/2 minus 6/2. I'm going to go ahead and do it that way for the 3. So y equals 1/2 x minus 7/2. So this is the normal line.
Love it when your lines are normal.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. We'll do one more of these kind tomorrow, and then a few other things in this section that we need to look at that are pretty chill. It all kind of goes together with like finding the slope or like writing the equation of the line or something. So the biggest thing to remember is when you're doing the limit, the slope that you find is always the slope of the tangent. So if it just asks you for the normal, you've got to find the perpendicular slope to whatever you're given.
Okay.
So, but honestly, I do think this stuff is relatively easy. It's just actually like applying the limits that we've done now, which is honestly more so what you're going to end up doing in this section as a whole. So, the rest of the problems that we should be able to finish them tomorrow. There's only a few left, so we should be good to go.